Do it live on a First Friday Miracle edition of the program. I am merely Beau. He is the great Z. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, man. Doing great. You know, decent weather again here today. Nice quarter zip weather, although
Fantastic.
I don't see you in a quarter zip. You're in a beautiful Lacoste T-shirt, which is just a stunning thing that you're doing there with your little gator. It's beautiful.
I am. This is part of the uniform. I have, as you know, I have this shirt in every color.
That's right. It's a V-neck, not a scoop neck.
Always a V-neck. I've got a fat face, so you got to go V-neck. You got to have a really slender face to go with a circle neck. So it's got to be real pronounced jawline. So you got to really have that to be able to wear a circle neck. You do, so that's why you look splendid in them.
Thank you.
I always go V-neck. A little bit of a cheat code for the kids out there. A little bit of a cheat code. You get a round face, V-neck it up.
I'd never heard that before. And in fact, my little
This is what I do.
Well, you're great at so many things. That's why you're a Renaissance man. But my little comment there, it's a V-neck, not a scoop neck. That's from one of my favorite totally random and unimportant scenes in Curb when the Sklar brothers, one of the Sklar brothers has that like store and Larry goes through and is checking out clothes or whatever.
That's early on.
Yeah, and remember he folds the clothes back up to be nice once he looks at the shirt, but not to the satisfaction of the Sklar brother. He doesn't fold it the way he wants to, and they get in a big fight, and then Larry tugs on something and goes, "It's a V-neck, not a scoop neck." And he yells at Larry, and Larry ends up yelling at him and storming out of the store. It's great.
The amount of guilt that I feel when I used to go to stores, I don't go to stores anymore because I know, like, I have a uniform, so I'm not for experimental clothes. Like, I have things that I like, and I just buy those things over and over again.
Same.
I don't ever go try
100%.
anything else. And I haven't tried on anything in forever. But when I used to, back in the day, when I used to, I would have tremendous guilt looking at those stacks of folded garments and wondering, knowing full well that it's impossible for me to get it back to there, and that if I took 2 or 3 of them, someone was going to have to do
Fold them, yeah. Yeah, I also had that similar guilt, but I was the kind of shopper, even in like mall days, mall heydays. I knew what I wanted when I walked in there.
Yep.
I never was a browsing shopper. Oh, this looks nice. Maybe I'll go try. Never. I don't think I ever was like, oh, this is fun. Maybe I'll try that on.
Right.
Perhaps at the behest of a woman at the time
A
was
focus.
like, oh, you should try that. No, I knew what I was getting. I walked in there, I got it, and I left. That's it. Because much like you,
I was in a similar vein. The only thing that would derail was the television career, because then you had to be on all the time, 5 days a week in suits or quarter zips or something presentable. So sometimes that would lead to, and I had the great Suzanne at Saks. She was my girl, took care of me. I'd go in there, she'd have a bunch of stuff. We'd try some stuff on, see what worked. Away we go.
Once I got into my suit accumulation days, though, I figured out, just like I was going to say before, with whether it was a Nike pant or it was whatever brand, I knew what fit me, I knew what I liked, and that's the one. And then I got that. So once I found out that Boss suits were very good for my physique,
the best.
That's all I got.
I
just
love them.
said I'm only getting Boss. That's it. So then I would get that because I knew
we have
it
not
fits.
discussed this.
Yeah, the best.
How have we not discussed this? Those are the only ones I wore. I loved them. The best.
Yeah, they fit. They just fit me right. They were perfect. So then it was like,
They're
okay,
great.
I don't need to understand about this and that and what this works. And fortunately, they make it in many different colors. Great. There you go. Gibbe,
a full array. A full array. Go ahead, Gibbe.
You're talking about attire. I was in a meeting yesterday about some brands and some things and some possible opportunities, and they said, how could we tie these brands into your show? And I said,
well, wear them.
I feel like
walking
if we
billboard.
did a shirt, if we did a garment a day or an accessory a day to showcase and model,
my goodness,
sure,
kids.
we would get a lot more bang for our buck than the other ideas that were being tossed about.
A pocket square one day, sure. That's
Here's what I would say.
I
a nice
believe
tie
that
one
the
day.
idea is being pitched.
I guess.
And for training camp, might be some new duds coming your way, Joe.
Bo, your hand is up. You have a question.
Well, let's. I'm sorry, Mr. Boss of the meeting. Do you want to move merch?
Right. That's right.
I believe we're professionals in this.
Well, if you want to move merch,
we'll move merch for you.
Understand that we'll move all the merch you want to move. Understand that we started a quarter zip revolution. understand that unsolicited things we say become T-shirts?
I was going to say, I haven't shopped.
Unsolicited.
I haven't shopped for anything in a long time because it ends up here.
Just shows up.
My quarter zips. I have so many quarter zips from here. I've got so many T-shirts.
What are we, harder moving merch around
we'll
here?
move merch. You want merch moved?
How much? What type of merch you want to move?
Just kind of floated that idea out there.
We're big M movers. Just let us go ahead, load the rocket ship with the fuel.
I'll tell you right now. I would tell you right now, and I am so confident in our abilities, and I am not. Don't think I'm going to be a fan of that urban sombrero thing they're selling on the New Era thing. I don't think I'm going to be a fan of that thing, except like for Drew to wear it. You and I could move that.
But we could sell it.
That's what I'm saying. We could move that. You want to move some urban sombreros?
That's right. That's right. I have no doubt.
Determined.
Are we talking? What are we talking here? Are we talking athletic wear? Are we talking like Browns merch stuff, or are we talking high fashion? Are you talking we've got custom suits coming in that we're going to be modeling?
Not the custom suit game. Not the custom.
Okay.
We're not there yet.
Yeah.
Well,
we're not
we
there.
got to start somewhere.
We could move that though. We could move that.
We could.
Yeah, you're on
100%,
TV still.
But it's baby
we
steps.
Could move that
but
too.
there is a notable provider.
Oh boy.
And I was asked.
Were some of the names that we were
Okay.
talking about
There you
earlier
a pretty easy one.
Were some things piquing your interest that we were talking about before?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh,
No
I
names.
mean, this is a simple thing.
Don't want to jinx anything.
Yeah.
Oh,
This could be very
boy.
exciting.
I like that we're kept in the
Yep.
dark. We're going to be the ones modeling this stuff, and we're like, this is the first we hear about it live on TV.
We're gonna be the ones moving the merch.
Yeah.
We'll move the merch.
We're as surprised right now as
tell you
Delpit
what.
was when he's like, wait, this isn't Browns Daily? The part of that
Right.
interview that was edited
Why am I
out.
on this show?
Yeah. What am I doing here?
Why am I on this
This is
show?
outrageous.
Why was I on this show? This is not the one that you guys are not my friends.
Yeah.
This is not the show I was going
Where's
to be
Beau
on.
and Z? They were dancing on their couch. Made it into the Emmy Award-winning edition of Building the Browns, by the way. Me dancing
That's
on my
right.
couch when we drafted Grant Delpit. I didn't see anybody from the BPA.
That's right. No,
Sad.
I didn't see any of the Ibs boys on that.
No, the Ibs
Well,
gang.
see,
We don't need to be seen. We're just heard.
no,
Oh,
nothing to see here.
the
Nothing.
Ibs
Well,
boys. Like
are
that. That's a shirt,
Um,
though, that I would buy. You two in, like, Western gear, and it said, like, the Ibs boys on it. I'd like that.
Yes.
I'd enjoy that. Kind of in a,
I
what's
think
it,
that
a
would be
sepia?
strong.
A sepia? Where it's like
I
just,
don't know what a sepia is.
isn't
I
sepia
was
what?
going to say I have no idea what that is.
Isn't that when it's just like
State school.
white and brown? Where it's like a brown and white, so it looks like an old, like, antique. I think that's a style
Oh,
of, like
like-
picture, photograph, or art. There's black.
You said it emphatically. You went to a private school. I'm sure you're
looking
right.
it up.
I just
I
never
believe
heard
I
it
am.
referred that way.
I believe.
I don't
Maybe
even need. I trust you so much in
could
your
be
intellect that
sepia.
I'm
I
not
could
even
be
going to look it up.
mispronouncing it for sure, but let's see.
I'm fine with it. I'm sure you have it right. I don't even need to look. I trust you implicitly.
A reddish brown color, associated particularly with monochrome photographs of the 19th and early
There you go.
20th centuries. Exactly. It's a brown and white.
Again,
Let's go.
You didn't even have to do that. I knew you had it.
I know, but I wanted to make sure I was right. I didn't want to be.
Yeah. Be confident. You said it emphatically.
I was.
Be confident.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be fun. I think probably what you do there is it's Butch and Sundance. Is that? Or
That's what
you
I'm
and I are
talking
more
about.
Butch and Sundance.
Well, we are.
But who could Gibby and who could the Ibs boys be? Like Frank and Jesse James?
That's pretty good.
I mean, they're
That's
outlaws,
pretty good.
derelict outlaws.
What about Wild Bill
Yeah.
Hickok and Gibby? You'll be Calamity Gibby.
Gibby. Gibby would definitely be. Gibby could be Hickok.
Of course.
We like Gibby a
Here's
lot
the
more than
issue.
Gribbs.
Like-
Gibby can be
I know, but that's
Hickok.
Gribble-
Gribble's
and
like the silent
Gribbs could
assassin.
be-
Gribble's not the wild and crazy guy.
He's
So you would
Charlie
be-
Utter.
I'm the wild and crazy guy.
He's Charlie Utter.
Utter. Yes. Charlie
Yeah.
Utter. But I just think having
He's the-
Calamity and
yeah.
Gibby in the same name is a great
Well,
great marketing.
I think that's fun too. But yeah, I want Gibby. Gibby as he likes to booze like Bill Hickok did.
Yep.
Probably liked to gamble
Charlie
back in
Utter.
the day when it
Didn't
was
he not work in the
permissible.
press?
Yeah.
Charlie Utter was in the telegraph business.
Well,
did
he
he not?
moved the mail.
Yeah, he moved
the
the mail.
Yeah.
That's right.
Gribbs can be Charlie Utter. That
Yes,
works fine.
Senior staff.
All right, let's get into the OBM hot topics, if we have any. Ohio Business Machine, preferred copier provider, your Cleveland Browns, of all the X's and O's for your office. Call 216-485-2000 or visit ohiobusinessmachines.com. How about the Cavs? Third pick. That's a big win for them to go from 5 to 3 in this draft.
That
so I
is.
think that's the lottery has been very kind to them over the years. Very, very kind to the Cavaliers. And they get a pretty big move up right here. Obviously, to get the full win as Detroit gets that, but to go from 5-3 certainly constitutes. Did you watch it last night?
The lottery? I did not.
Yeah.
No.
I did.
Very excited.
I've come to the conclusion that if there is a lottery and I am even tangentially interested, I'm in. Like, if I have any sort of connection to a team that's involved, I'm in. I'm watching it. I want to see it. And it got me thinking, what would the ratings be for an NFL lottery?
Large.
Can you imagine?
I don't want the lottery.
An NFL lottery? Yes, we do.
We do want it?
Of course we do.
For that reason?
We don't want Tankathon. Can you imagine if with Lawrence at stake, if the Niners got Trevor Lawrence? Or Carolina won the lottery and got Trevor Lawrence?
It would have to be limited to, like, the bottom 6 teams. It can't just be everybody who misses the playoffs.
Why not? We have 7 teams in each side making the playoffs now. And then just wait it. I mean, they wait it in the NBA.
Teams?
They just wait it. So the teams that are 1-15 or soon to be 1-16 just have a better shot at it.
So you want, like,
it's very rare.
They get one.
There's only been one time in NBA history where a team that was like the last team to miss won it, and that was Orlando. They won it after getting Shaq, and they drafted Chris Webber and then traded for Penny Hardaway. That's the only time that's happened where a team that got that close won the lottery. Most of the time, it's one of the worst teams in the league. Yeah, I'm for it. I like it. I think more and more credit Sashi Brown for this about assets and picking high and all of these things. You saw what Jacksonville did last year. They made sure they were going to get him. They won their first game. They made damn sure they didn't win another one.
Okay, fine. You've talked. See how you'd really twist my arm. I'm into it. I want, though, the lottery ball situation, because correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe they've updated at the NBA. Doesn't it all take place off camera, and then they reveal the answers on camera?
Yes.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, I don't like that either.
No. It needs to be like the actual lottery where balls are flying around in this vat, and it spits one out, and we zoom in on the logo.
Just like they do the lotto.
Yes.
Like Powerball.
Exactly. And then we zoom in on the logo. We're like, you got the number 1 pick, baby.
Whoa. Yep.
And then we put them back in it. Now let's go around for number 2.
Think of what it would do for just from an interest in the league. If you are, let's say you're Miami, they just drafted Tua, right? And they let's say that they liked him, even though we're hearing rumors that they don't. But let's say that they did, and let's say that he's had a fine rookie year, and then you win the lottery and you can draft Lawrence. Well, now all of a sudden you're trading Tua.
What if you're the Chargers?
There's layers of intrigue. Chargers is another great one. You're the Chargers. You miss the playoffs. You have Herbert. You love him. Now you can either draft Lawrence or you can trade either one for everything in the world.
Yeah.
Like it changes. The offseason would be incredible.
I'm in.
I thought maybe you would be.
I'm in.
I mean, it just would be. You imagine this? What would the bidding for a half hour put it? Where could you do it? You could do it in the day leading into the combine. Maybe the day of the combine, day before the combine starts, the night before the combine starts in February.
I like that. Kick off the new season.
Yep. And then boom. Or you could do it in Super Bowl pregame or conference championship pregame.
You already have the eyeballs there.
I think it stands on its own.
You already have the eyeballs there. Right. You want to do it at a time when you're making an event around this. This is the event.
I want it to. Well, what about if they want to make something out of the Pro Bowl? Do it at Pro Bowl halftime.
There you go. I like that. Sports czar.
Play the Pro Bowl in prime time. Do the lottery at halftime.
There you go. That's a win.
Moving merch, giving people ideas, creating ratings. What do you want out of this
What
show?
I'd like to know is I will find a fascinating of that Pro Bowl idea. I want to see the ratings halftime versus third quarter. And people should be able to wager on how much bigger the halftime ratings will be than the third quarter.
You remember the game on The Price is Right with the little mountain climber?
Of course. How could I not? One of my favorites.
What are you, hard of memory?
Yeah. Right off the cliff.
And they would yodel?
Yeah, the yodeler. He was the yodeler. I was going to say, I was going to bring out, he was the yodeler.
Yeah.
Indeed.
The yodeler. Yeah. And then right off the cliff.
Yeah.
Gone. That's what the ratings would be. I think that would be unbelievable.
Yeah, I like it.
That would be unbelievable.
Now I'm in. But it needs to be
okay,
revealed the right way. I realize that nobody's
agreed, like the lotto.
But starting with
Balls
the first
in the air,
pick.
Whoop, that sound.
Yeah, and that's the first
ball.
pick. The first ball that comes out is the first pick, and then you get to pull out all that team's organization's balls, and then you go through and now you do the second and go that way. But I can't have it go the opposite way. I want everybody's balls there.
You don't want to build up to one?
I don't. Even though it's probably bad for ratings, I don't. I think the first ball,
yeah, you do.
Because otherwise you can't do
you
it live.
Probably
How can you do it live?
Oh, because you have to pull them out,
Right. All anybody cares about, did they get the number one pick? They're going to hang in.
I'll trust the accounting firm. I'll trust the accounting firm of Ernst & Young or whoever's doing it.
You mean to tell me that moment when and then the camera zooms in and the ball spins and the logo reveals itself? That moment right there would be priceless.
It would be unbelievable. And there would still be intrigue with the rest because you're picking second, whatever. You're still picking high. So you're who's picking second, third. Yeah, you're probably right. I think you've sold me on that. I'm fine with that.
Because in reality, you still have, of the 18 teams, once you announce the first pick, 17 teams still don't know where they're picking. So you have the fan bases of 17 teams still very much into it, still wanting to be second at that point. Every next pick is like the number one pick.
Yeah.
The other way you do, if you start at the bottom, by the time it gets to what the big reveal is,
right.
16 teams have tuned out. We don't care. We're not number one or two.
So what they do is, I think what they do is at the NBA, they give you who picked number one before number two. Yeah, that's what they do. Who picked number one before number two. So or did they just, last night, I think they just had it be Detroit was last. I think that's maybe how it went, that Detroit had the number one. I like your idea, though. I like giving the number one reveal and then building back. I think that would win.
Right,
and if I were the Cavs, I would take Jalen Suggs and just forget about it. I wouldn't care about fit. I would deal with the other two in another way. I don't. To be fair, though, I don't know enough about this Jalen Green kid. Maybe he's good or not. I don't know. He played in the G League last year, but Suggs I've seen, and to me, he's going to be a dude. The kid out of Gonzaga is going to be a dude. He's bigger point guard, ultra athletic, great shooter, creates, good body. To me, put that guy and don't worry about fit. Deal with fit some other way.
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
I'm with it.
All right.
Are we talking about that? And speaking of the hoops, are we going to talk about the end of this game? Are we going to do that in the next
go ahead.
segment?
We got to get this, too. But we got to get Jake at 2:30. Yeah, we'll talk about the end of the game. We'll talk about Orlovsky making a critical error, one of the worst mistakes of his life. See, teasable. There you go. We're getting all of that. Little Jake Trotter coming up in about 12 minutes as well. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Social Security benefits have been denied, call the disability lawyers at 1-800-ELK-OHIO. Elk & Elk is a proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. Yes, that was a heck of a way to end a playoff game. Were you watching it live by chance with Aiton?
I was not watching it live, but I woke up to a text from from Pedro about it. So then I immediately sought it out, and wow is all. First of all, wow. You think about this all the time. Oh, they only have time for an alley-oop. It feels like it's impossible to pull off. Clearly, we saw it was possible. By the way, Jay Crowder's pass was so perfect. The fact that it didn't hit the board is incredible. It was perfectly executed. And the only other time I've seen anything like this in my life, because I have seen something like it, was an NBA 2K against my friend Vince Conde, friend of the show.
Same stakes.
It had been, actually, he might argue in his mind, higher stakes. I'd beaten him like 150 games in a row. He's the
waffle, right?
The waff. He's now, for my birthday as an early gift, he got me the show. He's like trying to find a new game that he's been playing for months, and so now he's got me MLB the show. So he's going to try to take me now on the baseball on the diamond. But he was up 1 with like 0.1 second left, and all I could do was alley-oop it, and I pulled it off and dunked on it, and he was furious. A controller lost its life that day.
Sad. Yeah.
Sad.
So I want to run 2 things by you on this. One, is this kind of proof that, let's remember, in the NBA we're drafting 19-year-olds? Because people wanted to run DeAndre Ayton out of town. They want to run him out of town because this is the Doncic Trae Young draft.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And he goes number 1 overall. By the way, Marvin Bagley went 2. So if you really want to be like to have that back, that's where it starts. But people wanted to bury Ayton, and now he's a really nice pro who could end up being a great pro. And the other thing I thought of while watching this is this a product of an NBA that is more for positionless basketball, less about
100%.
true center rim protector?
Yep.
Because he was able to get to the rim unimpeded. Like, there's no chance he would have been able to get to the rim 10 years ago with people who would have been playing in the Western Conference Finals at center. In a traditional center lineup, he would not have gotten there. But because they don't really have bigs in the traditional sense, he was.
Yeah. He's definitely, it's moving that way. You can eliminate the effectiveness of a Gobert, as we saw in that series, very easily. Ayton, I'm an Arizona basketball fan. The fact that the team with the number 1 pick in the draft, we didn't even win a game in the tournament that year. I think they lost to some jabroni squad early in that tournament. But, yeah, sometimes you need some time to develop. And that's like, for example, to tie it back to the Browns, Anthony Schwartz. Yes, he's a track star. No, he has not been a full-time receiver really at any point in his life before this. But he's 20. He's 20. He's not even 21. He's 20. Yeah. So you've got time to develop him. But the Suns are fun. Suns and 4 guy, and his media tour was fantastic. Now it's great. They're up 2-0. Suns and 4 still in play.
Yeah, it sounds like Chris Paul will be back for the game this weekend, so for Game 3, so that's exciting for them as well. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see them against the Hawks, honestly. I'd like to see Trae Young on that stage.
Trae Young,
I think they're fun to watch. Yeah, would be fun. Did you see this from Orlovsky this morning? So he sends out a tweet, Team Saved by the Bell or Team 90210. And of all of the things that I have read on this show, I can think of nothing finer than the following line that Gibby put, because Orlovsky did this wrong. These 2 shows are not apples to apples. They are apples and avocados. Gibby is right. It's 90210 versus Melrose. It is not 90210 versus Saved by the Bell. You graduated from Saved by the Bell to 90210.
Boy, ever since I saw this on the rundown, I was so pumped. Were
you going to steal it?
Oh, yeah.
Is that why you were waiting?
Yeah, I was trying to get in there, but you ran right there.
I knew you were. I wasn't going to let you.
I was just going to say, you were going to steal it. You don't compare them. You graduated from Saved by the Bell to 90210. And then you were saying,
I knew
wait,
it. I know
said
you
that.
so well.
I was going to say, I don't follow you on social.
For those who aren't
I had a whole bit.
For those who are watching, Z had a
crud.
whole bit.
What
He
a
had
crud.
his finger up trying at any point for me to interrupt, and I just steamrolled through so that you would not have a chance to steal it. As I made
because then you're going to be like, I said that. I'm like, oh, I don't follow you on social. It's really going to be great.
I don't follow you on social.
It's going to be a great moment for our fans that you robbed them of. Very sad.
I knew that's where you were.
As that was going on, I was thinking to myself, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so scared.
Poor Jesse Spano.
Oh, man.
That's what I said. One show, the hardest thing that you had to deal with was Adderall with Jesse Spano. The other one had legit murder and mayhem.
Yeah, very.
One's on a Saturday morning. The other's on in prime time. Like, this is not the same.
No.
One's played by actual high school-age kids. The other one's played by 30-year-olds acting like high school-age kids.
Gabrielle Carteris was like 45 or something. I want to say. She was old. And
I appreciated them both a ton. And honestly, with Gibby's follow-up line, which is the correct line, should it be 902 or Melrose Place, both. I loved them both. They went right into another, didn't they? Wasn't one at 8, one at 9, or 9 and 10?
Was Melrose Place like Billy Shoe or whatever his name was? Yeah, that one was
Locklear. It set off.
Locklear.
When Locklear shows up, it sets off. That's a different level of mayhem once she shows up.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Saved by the Bell was great. It just was a perfect.
Yeah.
It was a perfect show. I've actually got to hang. I wouldn't say hang. That's probably the wrong word. I've gotten to, kind of, at a couple WrestleManias with Mr. Belding. Huge wrestling fan.
He's a huge, like, AAA ballpark fan.
Is he?
He's big.
He just
on
feels
that
like
circuit.
he's living his best life. He just goes around and shows up at stuff that he likes to do, gives some of his laughs, and everybody loves him because everybody loved Mr. Belding. He's great.
Yeah. Gibby, where did you come down on this?
First and foremost, from my one friend who's an aficionado of the program, it wasn't Adderall, it was caffeine pills.
Fact. That's true.
Same.
I don't know. Close to it.
Whatever it was. Caffeine?
I was all in
pills
for. I was all in for both.
And it was something like that.
90210 Melrose, especially when I got to college. Like sorority watch parties on a Monday night. You get that invite?
Yep. Yeah.
Here we go.
It was such mayhem. I mean, Melrose, and I had Brandon Castello, I know from the Columbus days, still does a lot of writing on Buckeye stuff. He goes, one had Kelly Kapowski, the other didn't. End of conversation. No. Kelly Kapowski became Valerie Malone. It's everything anybody who liked Kelly Kapowski wanted in life was for her to become what she became.
Don't you also do you get any Vanessa Marcel on Melrose Place? Do you?
She's in 90210.
She was
Vanessa
in 90210.
Marcel was a little 90210.
Oh boy,
that's right.
That's a good treat for 90210.
Yeah.
I was definitely more 90210 than Melrose. I was not.
Me too.
For sure.
I was too.
But Saved by the Bell is classic. All right, real quickly because I know we have to go. Give me your Saved by the Bell Mount Rushmore of characters. You can only have 4.
We are literally supposed to be having Jake Trotter.
I know, but this is important.
We should do this with Trotter.
Don't they only have 4? There's only 4 people on that show.
On Saved by the Bell?
Well, Screech is off, and probably Lisa Turtle. I mean, it's the other 4 that you need.
Lisa Turtle out. Wow. All right, we'll talk about this with Jake.
I think so. Like, she was always on the outside looking in. I mean, Leah Remini came in late when they went to the beach. She came out of nowhere. Didn't see that coming.
No, she's not on
but she was. I mean, it's Kapowski. It's the 4 that you think. It's Spano, Kapowski, Slater, and Zach. That's the 4 that's got to be on there.
I'm having a
you could throw Jessie out. She was a little annoying.
Yeah,
if
I
you want
like
to put
Lisa
Belding in
Turtle
over
way
Jessie,
more
I wouldn't be mad at you.
than Jessica Spano.
Yeah, I did too.
The Harvard.
But she
of
was
the
always.
West.
They always tried to pair her up with Screech. Like it just didn't add up. They should have put somebody in there for her. There was nobody in there, and I think she dated the actor who played Zach. All right, we got to get to. That's enough. We got to get to Jake. Jake's
Going
coming
down
up
a
next.
rabbit
We'll
hole.
ask him about this.
All right.
Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, tune in or set your DVRs, as I have, to News 5
Be there,
next
be
Tuesday,
square.
June 29th, 8 o'clock. Browns Countdown, Top 10 Moments, presented by Bridgestone. Dr. Z and John Doss. Appearances by Tim Couch, Jarvis Landry. They count down the top 10 moments in Cleveland Browns history as voted on by you, the best fans in all of the NFL. As we head out on the hotline for a little recap of mandatory minicamp, rookie minicamp, the offseason, questions heading into training camp. In July, the great Jake Trotter, great friend of the program, ESPN NFL Nation Browns reporter, joining us. Before we get to that, Jake, you see Orlovsky with trying to pit 902-0 against Saved by the Bell. Did you have a rooting interest in those two? Although I don't know that they can even be compared.
What are the choices? 90210 or Saved by the Bell?
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'm
were you
saying
into either
they're
one?
not even choices. You graduated from Saved by the Bell to 90210. They're not. That's not even the same genre of television.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like I can't remember like what years those shows were on television, but I don't think I'd seen an episode of 90210 in my life. I have no recollection, but I did watch Saved by the Bell
Stunning.
a little bit.
A little bit. Oh boy, we can't. I don't know. If
It
Jake,
could be age. It could be age.
Yeah,
could be age.
He's much younger.
Yeah.
You are younger. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
mean,
very
so
good.
Saved by the Bell. I felt like I was 10, 11 in that range when it was on.
Okay.
12.
Well, we're in our early 40s.
So you just chose not
Yeah.
to watch
What are
90210.
you? How old are you, Jake?
It's what?
I just
If you're
turned 40 2 weeks ago.
So,
So you're in the
you're
wheelhouse.
right in the wheelhouse.
You're, man, you're 40.
You're in the sweet spot.
You just
Yeah,
chose not to watch 90210.
Yeah.
It was never in my purview. I don't really have a reason. I just don't have any recollection of ever watching the show.
That's incredible. What an upset. Did
And I'm
not
not
see that coming.
And by the way, I'm not going to go back and binge watch it either.
Nor would I recommend it. I have a feeling it wouldn't feel the same to you as a man who is 40 as,
No.
as a boy who was 12. It would not be geared
I
for that, my friend.
missed my opportunity, missed my window.
That's all right.
But
That's all right. No losses
I was
there.
a Saved by the Bell fan. I like Saved by the Bell.
Yeah, it's good. It's good
course.
fun there. It's good
tremendous.
fun. What did you let's go back to first let's most recent. Let's work our way back. Let's go back to mandatory minicamp. And we all talk about everything that was done this off season. But then to see it is something else entirely. What was that experience like for you, just kind of looking out and seeing everybody who was out there last week?
Yeah, it's a challenge because, guys are not in pads. There's not any kind of scrimmaging happening, but you can still pick up, I think, a lot of stuff. I mean, the first thing that stood out was, and the first thing I was looking for is how does Odell Beckham Jr. look? Because we've seen the Instagram videos that he's posted, but it's just different when you see it in person. And I couldn't discern in any way, shape, or form that he had a knee injury, right? I mean, they weren't cutting him loose out there. He was sitting a good chunk of the practices, particularly that third day. But he did enough and cut enough and sprinted enough for me to think to myself, like, the guy, even though he's not necessarily 100%, just looks like he's back. And so you feel like before the season starts, probably before training camp starts, you would think he's going to be pretty close to full tilt at that point. So that's a very positive sign for Cleveland. And then, on the other side of the ball, the kind of the swing piece, I think, for the defense in the way that Odell is for the offense. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney, it seems pretty simple, but, just watching him run sprints, it was like, whoa, that guy sticks out. He sticks out because of his frame, but just the explosiveness that he showed in something as benign as running sprints, I thought was interesting as well, especially considering he's coming off an injury as well. So those two guys, I think when I look back at camp, really stood out the most to me because of how good they looked, incredible athletes, but how good they looked coming off those injuries.
Yeah, and it's exciting to see all of these pieces out there. What was, I think a lot of the attention is on defense, and rightfully so. We've seen what this offense looks like. We're excited to see what the evolution of it is. But what did you think when you just saw all of these guys out there, all the new faces, all the speed on that defense?
Yeah, and I think that is going to be really fun to watch this defense come together. It's going to take some time, right? Look at what happened with the offense last year. They weren't, a well-oiled machine out of the gate. And with so many new faces, I think it may take a month. It may take a few games for them to really settle in. But they're going to have a lot of versatility, particularly in the secondary. They're going to have a lot of depth there as well, with guys like Greg Newsome and John Johnson. And they're just not going to be in the situation they were last year where if they had an injury or two. I mean, they were in bad shape. That's not going to be the case next season, particularly if Greedy Williams and Grant Delpit were back to the way they were before those injuries in training camp last year. So, I mean, there's a lot of speed, from the defensive end position all the way back to safety. They've got a lot of depth and versatility, and I think that plays right into the way Joe Woods wants to call defense.
It does.
Yeah, it certainly does. Go ahead, Z.
No, I was going to say it does, and I think that's what's exciting. There's so many possibilities for what this defense can be. We saw Newsome working inside and outside, Greedy outside, Hill inside. You could have 4 corners in that dime. You could have 3 safeties in that dime. I think linebacker all of a sudden becomes incredibly intriguing and all of a sudden very deep. The interior of the defensive line is so deep. Jake, when you look at this team and this defense, the speed, I think really that was my big takeaway from the training camp, but the competition, not only to make the team, which is, what you talk about a lot, the competition just to get on the field, I think is going to be pretty stout on all 3 levels of this defense.
Yeah, I think they're going to have some good competitions. I mean, linebacker really sticks out to me, right? They're going to be playing 2 most of the time, and so who those 2 guys going to be. I mean, I think you would have to assume that Anthony Walker is one of those guys, and then eventually JOK would be the other. But I mean, you've got a lot of snaps already, and guys like Taki and Mac Wilson, and Jacob Phillips had some moments last year. Who am I forgetting? I feel like Malcolm. They have a lot of options there at that position. It probably more so than they've had. And then, you look at corner and, Greedy or Greg Newsome is going to be coming off the bench. So that you feel good about that situation as well. And you have Troy Hill as well, who can play outside and work there a little bit during camp as well. And then, you've got at least 3 safeties in Ronnie Harrison, Delpit, and John Johnson that, you can keep those guys fresh. So I think that at every position, maybe with the exception of defensive tackle, you've got a guy coming off the bench that, is pretty proven and you feel good about. And I think they have some intriguing young guys at defensive tackle, but it's certainly, the least deep position, I think, on that defense. And then you have 2 starters, if we're looking at sort of the half-glass empty version of this defense. I mean, you got 2 starters, one who didn't play last year because of COVID. The other, is that injury history. That might be a little bit of a question mark. But if that's your biggest question mark, you're in pretty good shape.
Jake, you guys got a chance to talk to Baker first time this offseason. You had a chance to talk to him. Every time we have somebody on and they talk about this roster and we talk about a top 5 or 6 roster, it's a top 5 or 6 roster, Super Bowl contender, if Baker can continue to progress. And we're always quick to say, hey, actually what he did second Cincinnati game on, was as good as anything in the league last year. And some of the tight window throws he made in the Kansas City game were far more difficult than even the ones that Patrick Mahomes made in that game. So it does feel to us a little bit like people are slighting him, but I think he'll play right into that. No one loves a chip on their shoulder more than Baker. In terms of what you heard from him last week in the availability and what you saw from him on the field, and you've covered him longer than anybody, what did you see and what did it look like to you with 6 coming back this year?
Yeah, and there's kind of some revisionist history going on. I mean, there's somebody at my network the other day was like, well, why would you give Baker Mayfield an extension when he's only played, 1 out of 3 seasons? And I was like, I guess people just are writing off his rookie year, like he was trash, despite finishing second in the Rookie of the Year voting. And, oh, by the way, broke Peyton Manning and Russell Wilson's touchdown record for rookie. He was terrific as a rookie. And you're right. I mean, the numbers back it up. The wins back it up. From week 7 basically on, but especially week 7 and week 15, only Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers were playing at a higher level week to week than Baker Mayfield. And Baker was terrific in that playoff win at Pittsburgh. So, I mean, listen, 2019 was not great. I think there were some reasons for that. I think Baker deserves blame for it as well. He's certainly culpable in the way that season went, but there's more good with Baker Mayfield in Cleveland than bad. I mean, he's just been better more times than he hasn't been. And, oh, by the way, he had 4 head coaches in 3 seasons. So, I mean, I can tell you the team, and this is why I think that, I'm bullish on an extension getting done this year. Is that, I mean, the team thinks he's going to be even better in 2021, and there's really no reason to think that he won't be unless you just hate Baker because, they have incredible continuity around him now offensively. Everybody, not even just the starters. I mean, like every player
everybody.
That played a key role is back. They have an offense that he clearly, thrives out of, he's going to be comfortable with. He's not learning a new offense for the first time in an offseason since he was drafted. So great rapport with guys like Kevin Stefanski and AVP, and Case Keenum in that quarterback room. So he's in a great situation, and there's just no reason to think that he won't build off the way he played last year. I mean, I think the one, monkey wrench in the whole situation could be if, the chemistry with he and Odell, is a little rough. But, I would posit that, Odell's going to be playing with a different Baker Mayfield than the one he did in Week 7, a much more confident, established, comfortable Baker Mayfield.
Right.
And I think that Baker is not going to be, whether it was subconscious or not, stressed out about a talent like Odell being on the field. They're just going to run the offense and utilize Odell's gravity and his playmaking to make the ceiling of this offense even higher. As to what I saw in minicamp, I mean, it's hard again to take away anything from a 2-day practice and 2.5, I guess, where they're not wearing pads. But I mean, Baker's making all the throws. They are focused on things like snap count and timing more than what the actual plays are, and I think that's going to be positive when they really crank it up in training camp.
I think some of the talk, and we've, again, you kind of mentioned there, and we heard the report today that, Baker's agent thinks that a deal will be done before training camp. Some of the talk, Mike Tannenbaum has said he would not extend Baker. He firmly planted his flag in the ground and was saying, oh, well, he was this off of play action. He was that, not on play action, on just straight drop back passing. I think he had him third in the league, second and third in the league in play action, 20th on straight dropbacks. But if you were to break down the season, and our good friends at Pro Football Focus, John Costco, sent me all this stuff, Baker from week 7 on was top 5 in the NFL, top 10 at worst in every category off of drop back passing. Every single one without play action, just pure passing, third to all of it. So he evolved as he got comfortable in this offense. And I think there's no reason not to expect to get better. And Jake, you hit the nail on the head. The belief in this building is that he is going to get a lot better this season as well. I think that narrative about Baker, just watch that Chiefs game, and I realized that the Chiefs won the game, but the tight window throws Baker had to make versus the big windows that Mahomes had because of the speed that they had and the talent. One of the reasons they got Anthony Schwartz this year. But I think Baker should have answered all questions. 20 touchdowns, 2 interceptions in the NFL is pretty darn good.
Yeah, go watch Monday Night Football, the fourth quarter in Monday Night Football.
Yeah,
against Baltimore. Watch that first half against Tennessee, and I think this is a misconception about Baker and the Browns the second half of the season, where I guess people don't watch them week to week, think that they were just handing off, and then
we were a passing team.
They would run play action.
Yes,
that was a passing team the last 2 months of the season. Now, maybe defenses were daring them to throw and they took advantage of the, favorable matchup, but they took advantage of it. They were, putting up 40 points on really good teams. So, I listen, Baker's really going to play action, but that's not the only facet of the game. And, the other part of it is like, what? So if you don't have Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers, you just punt on your quarterback. I mean, you can win in this league if you have a top 10 caliber quarterback, and I think Baker could get there. We'll see if he does. I think at times he was playing like a top 10 quarterback last season, but that's a guy, like, particularly if you're the Browns and you haven't had a franchise quarterback since, Bernie was behind center in the 1980s, look at what you do have and not what you don't. And I is Baker a perfect player? No, but I think that if you have your quarterback and like we all know who the guy that team rallies around in the locker room, there's no question about it. Mm-hmm. You have that guy, especially when you haven't had that guy in forever. Why you would be trying to move on from that doesn't make sense to me. And somebody brought this point up to me, in the building. When you have your quarterback, you can go draft Greg Newsome. You can go draft Cedric Wills. I mean, look at all these teams that are extending, first-round picks on quarterbacks, every couple of years. When you have that guy, you can build up your talent base at other positions, and that's exactly what the Browns have been able to do since 2018.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yes.
And because of that, when you look at this roster, there really aren't any questions. I mean, Jake, we've gone into recent seasons and even ones before you and I got here, there were far more questions. But, I mean, even a year ago, all right, who's going to play right guard? You didn't know Wyatt Teller would be what he ended up being.
Sure.
We didn't have any of that. You mentioned, like, there's a conversation at linebacker. Who's going to be – but you feel like Walker's one of them, and eventually Owusu Koramoah. Mack looked good. All right, so there's a little bit of intrigue there. Defensive tackle, offensive line, how many to keep, those type of conversations. But in terms of big questions heading into camp, there really aren't any. What unless you can give me one. Do you have one? What's the number one question going into camp for you?
Well, that's why, like, mini camp, I mean, you're at, what was the take? I mean, there's not really, in the past, it's like, the quarterback they drafted looks really good, or maybe doesn't look so good, or, and I think training camp, there's going to be questions like, how does Odell Baker look? I think is the big one for me. And during the season as well, early on, that's going to be the big question. Can Clowney play up to his potential? But these are the type of questions I think a lot of really good teams would be asking. If you're a team that's not any good or you're struggling, it's like, who's the go-to guy on offense going to be? Well, with the Browns, it's like, how are you going to get the ball around to all these guys that you have that can make plays? So I think it's just a very different situation than the Browns have been in the past. Obviously, and I think it's going to change the way we look at training camp.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, and it's going to be fun to see all these things. Going back to Baker and Odell, you said something earlier that we've been talking about, and I think we're saying the same thing. Baker, at the end of the second half of the year, when he took off, and clearly there's a natural inclination. We've talked to Dan Orlovsky. We've talked to Kurt Warner about this. We've talked to a lot of quarterbacks. When you have that guy who's the number one, you look for him, and it can affect what you do. But as Baker, when he got really effective, he just started playing the game. The ball was going where the offense and or the defense dictated that it go, and he was incredibly successful doing that. Your contention, it sounded like, and that's what I'm asking, is that he's so comfortable and confident in how he played now that he has a little more standing to say, no, this is how we're playing. If you're open, then that's where the offense and or defense dictates the ball is going to go, that you're going to get it. And if it's not, it's going to go to this person who's open. Is that what you were saying earlier? Because if it is, I totally agree.
Well, yeah, no question. And I wrote, like, immediately after the Odell injury, I wrote that I thought Baker was going to be better as a result of Odell not being on the field. And, I didn't know if the Browns were going to be better off necessarily because, again, of the gravity that Odell brings, the way the defense has schemed him up really opens things up on paper for, Jarvis Landry on the other side or Nick Chubb, his running lanes in the running game. But I just watching Baker, I mean, there was enough of a sample size to say or to see that, like, it just was a little bit off, and the numbers backed it up. I mean, his splits thrown to Odell versus everyone else was, like, not even close. And I didn't really have a good, explanation for it, but it just was not – it was not seamless. And so I thought that Baker would play well because I thought Baker would just go through his progressions, revert back to being, the timing-oriented passer that he'd always been. And I was like, hey, But I also think there were other factors at play when you look back at it, and that's, Baker getting more comfortable in the offense, whether Odell was out there or not. They had the bye week right afterward. I can't remember if it was that weekend or the weekend after, but, that bye week to really kind of, okay, what's working, what's not working, how can we put Baker in more successful situations? So I don't think it was like just one factor that allowed Baker to play so well. But I did say at the time, and I think it proved out to be the case, that, I thought Baker could maybe relax a little bit and just read the defense and play his game without worrying about whether Odell was going to touch the ball or not, or hadn't touched the ball, or, whatever. Yeah. Now, so I said that then, and what I would say now is that I think Baker is in a much better place from a confidence perspective, from poise, comfortability in the offense, that whether Odell is out there or not, it's not going to affect the way he approaches each snap. And I think that will allow them to make to incorporate Odell back to the offense and really use him in a way that makes the offense effective, instead of trying to always revolve everything around him, which, really going back to even 2019 was the case at times. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen. I think that's what's going to make the early part of the season really fascinating, is how that, partnership, whether they can finally figure it out. And I remember, I think Case Keenum on this station said, over the summer, sometimes when you have big-time wide receivers, it just takes a little bit of time to figure it out. And it doesn't always happen overnight. And I think if you're a Browns fan, you have to hope that this is one of those cases where it eventually, clicks after, a year and a half. And when it does click, it's going to be pretty devastating for the opposing defenses. So, we'll see. But I think Baker is in a different place right now than he was in 2019 when they just traded for Odell, and certainly through the first, 5, 6, 7 weeks of last season, when, he was struggling a little bit because he was learning yet another offense.
Yes. Yeah, we agree. I thought he just looked bouncy. He looked cocksure, full of himself, all the things that you'd want, confident. I thought he looked good. It's a mini camp without helmets on, but I thought he looked great, and I look forward to seeing what he does in camp. Jake, you're the best, bud. Appreciate you.
Okay, guys. Take care.
All right, that's our great friend Jake Trotter, ESPN NFL Nation Browns reporter, on the hotline. If you're obsessing over football, it can be a problem. If you're obsessing over gambling, it can be dangerous. Do something to take your mind off it, like finding a hobby, perhaps. If you want some tips on what it could be, go to keepitfunohio.com for great ways to keep gambling fun. Coming up in the second hour of the program, we'll take a look at the Chicago Bears as we continue our OTA camp tour. That is coming up next, plus Myles Garrett on a list.
Oh, boy.
Properly rated, overrated, underrated. We'll get to that as well. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. And if you're sick and tired of your outdated kitchen, now is the perfect time to upgrade to a new modern design. And at Northeast Factory Direct, cabinets include all of the upgrades. Solid wood, full extension drawer glides, cushion closed drawers and doors. They have it all. The best part, the process is simple. You make an appointment, you bring in some basic measurements. Kitchen designer going to walk you through the design. Interactive big screen. You get to see how it'll look. The appointment and the design are free. There's no obligation. They'll let you take it with you. You have 0% financing that's available. So if you're thinking about remodeling your kitchen, go to northeastfactorydirect.com. Get there now, check out, and schedule your appointment today. This is from our friend Doug Farr of USA Today. Top 11 edge rushers. I have no umbrage with Miles coming in at number 3. I think that's a more than respectable spot and worthy. I do think the rest of his list is a little wild.
It's an interesting list, and as you go through it, it starts off with a guy that was, at the time, an apple of the eye of this program. Carl Lawson gets in at number 11. This is purely guys on the outside, though, to be clear. Now, you and I, later on, will do our top, pass rushers of all time, which it's –
top ends, right? Didn't we do top ends of all time?
Yes, top ends of all time. So that's what we'll do. But some guys are tough, because as a 3-4 end, J.J. Watt, for example, is a 3-4 end. Reggie White was a lot of his career a 3-4 end or a 4-3, sometimes inside.
I think those guys are edges.
I think of them that way, too. I think so, too.
I think of them as edges. Like, I don't think of them the way that Aaron Donald plays. Like, that's different.
Right.
Like he comes off the center between center and guard most of the time. It's a different.
Very much of an interior guy.
Right. I think those guys are edges.
So he's got Lawson there. He's got Joey Bosa at 10. And Bosa is really, really good. 20 sacks, 133 pressures the last 2 seasons. What is the question for him? Is just his ability to stay on the field? I do think it's an unbelievable list if you're an Ohio State fan when you think about the fact that 3, I believe, of the names on this list are Ohio State Buckeyes and were they in consecutive drafts, or maybe there was 1 year between the Bosas?
There's some years in between the Bosas. There's a couple years. There's a year in between the Bosas. Joey was in the 16 draft, but Chase and Nick went back to back.
Right.
It's interesting. So I guess that's what I was referring to. So he has Joey Bosa at 10. He's got Chase Young at 9. And then he's got Nick Bosa at 7 on the list. Is that where he has him? Yeah, because he's got Chandler Jones 8. He's got Emmanuel Ogbah 6.
So that was the one that surprised me the most, and he said he was the most improved guy last year and just went nuts. 10 sacks, 12 quarterback hits, 44 pressures, one of the most disruptive edge defenders in the NFL, and, a former Cleveland Brown who was traded for Eric Murray. 1 for 1. Yeah. And he said, what he said was, in his defense, was of all the edge defenders I studied last season, Emmanuel Ogbah took the biggest step forward. He's top 10 now. So I think Ogbah, a great spot for him would have been, let's see it, put him at 11, and then let's see it. Right now.
11, then Lawson. Your list loses some credibility for me, and I think Ogbah, and you talked about how lopsided that deal ended up being, but Ogbah, to me, is not on the level of the Bosas or Chase Young. Like, those are franchise ends.
And if you said to anybody, for this year alone, for the 2021 season, you can have Chase Young, Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, or Chandler Jones or Emmanuel Ogbah, Ogbah's going to come in 5th out of those 5, 100%.
100% of the time.
Now, what Doug's saying is, based on my tape watching, that's what I see. I think that he is better than them. So maybe there are very different boards in the league. Maybe there would be a board that features him over those guys. I'd be surprised. Now, Bosa and Jones are both coming off of injuries, if I'm not mistaken.
Nick and Chandler, yep.
Yeah. So anyway, interesting, but you got to put something a little bit interesting in here. And that's an interesting discussion point, is that he's got Emmanuel Ogbah there, Cam Jordan 5. And Cam Jordan has just been, it feels like, good for a long time.
I don't know that people know how consistently good he's been.
he's been he's just really good year in, year out. And you always feel like he's a force there with that team. And they've tried, Trey Hendrickson had a good year with him. They moved up to get Davenport to play with him. But yeah, he's just been so reliable and so consistent at a position that I think it's tough to be consistent. What's amazing to me about this list is the biggest, at least from a name standpoint, clear omission is Khalil Mack.
Yeah. Yeah, Khalil Mack is not on this. Yeah, no, he did not make this list.
No.
And I can't go to bat because I'm not watching the Bears that way.
Me neither.
Where I'm watching every game to see what he's doing or what he's not. But I have read from people who do that his impact is far greater than what's being known statistically. So, it's hard to say what, how you perceive a guy. When you watch a team, it's just like the conversation we were having with Jake about Baker. Like, when you watch us every week, like we do, like Jake does, and you pay as close attention as we do, you have a different view. You see the reality.
Yes.
If you paratroop in a couple of national television games and look back at stat lines, you don't have a reality of what happens in a season. And that's not a fault of anybody. It's impossible to watch every game every week, unless you're the edge NFL matchup guys. But other than that, unless that's your job, you can't really do it. So I think it's, it's positive. Mack and Von Miller. Von's obviously getting older, but those are two guys who would have occupied the top of this list 3 or 4 years ago, and now aren't. But I mean, look, of all the people on this list, what I think you can say, and we'll do our top 5 all-time defensive, our edge rushers of all time here in a second. The league is incredibly just drenched in talent at the position for young players.
Yes.
TJ, Miles, the Bosas, Chase Young. I mean, these are young guys. These are early to mid-20s.
Shaq Barrett.
And they're all Shaq Barrett. And they're all young dudes who are ascending, who it looks like they could all be just dominant players in the future. Like, I don't know how you're going to make all-pro at defensive end in the next 5 years. That's going to be a chore.
You're going to have to earn it, that's for sure. Shaq Barrett 2 years ago led the league 19.5 sacks, last year 8, but you watch their run through the playoffs, and Shaq Barrett was dominant. And as Doug Farr writes, you could have made the case that he was the MVP of the Super Bowl because he was a wrecking crew, not just a one-man wrecking crew, because there were plenty of guys who were very good, but he was up there. He had 4 sacks in the playoffs.
How old is he, Z?
He is 28.
Okay, so he's a little older than Miles and the Ohio State guys and TJ, but still well within his prime. And the other guys, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a lot of young dudes.
Yeah, it's pretty wild
on this list. Yeah, and it's really an embarrassment of riches at the position. We'll have a little fun. We'll do our top 5 edge guys of all time coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Beau Bishop here for my friend at Weather Seal Home Services. Need a roof replacement? Would you like to replace your roof for the final time? Well, that's the benefit of choosing a metal roof from Weather Seal. Metal roof technology, materials, styles, and colors have improved significantly. They are beautiful, nearly indestructible, and affordable. Plus, with a new metal roof, Weather Seal includes 100 feet of free extra-large gutters, up to 7 years, 0 interest on that financing, guys. 7 years, 0 interest, free extra-large gutters. It is an incredible win for you. Call my guys at 877-351-SEAL or visit weathersealhomeservices.com, and they will take care of you. All right, Z, so we're going to do our top 5. I'm curious, our top 5 edge guys of all time, and I think what will be interesting will be the order of this list. And one thing that I did is, and would not be how I'd recommend it to my children, but I did this without any prep work, like no thought of like statistically if it matched up or if they were graded this way. This just in my mind, the top 5 edge rushers of all time. How did you approach it, sir?
I did the same. Once you said that while we were doing it, I didn't look anything up. I just kind of wrote down the names in the order. I made one change once I remembered something about one of the players, and so my top 5, I just wrote those names down. Then I actually have an honorable mention top 5 as well of other guys that I had considered.
Okay, let's get to that. Before we do that, though, I also said I did not consider guys who I didn't see. Like, I can't put Deacon Jones on a list. I didn't see.
I put him on the list. He invented the sack.
Okay, he was on my list. He was on my list at 3, but like I didn't see him. I didn't see him play. Like I would have had him high.
I've watched enough stuff of his to know. I mean,
to feel like it.
Everybody
he
says
would be on any top 5 list.
He would be the all-time leader in sacks if sacks were a stat when he was playing.
Right. So if he's in, that's fine. I'll put him back in. So then he is. I'll put him on my list.
Yeah.
And then I'll move a guy down to honorable mention. All right, give me you have 5 honorable mentions. I'll just have 1 honorable mention, so give me some of your honorable mentions here.
Honorable mentions did not make the cut. Julius Peppers,
sure.
Michael Strahan, Charles Haley, J.J. Watt, and Kevin Green were my honorable mentions.
Okay, so one of yours who are your honorable mention is in my top 5. And another one is my honorable mention, and that is Kevin Green. So Kevin Green would be my honorable mention.
Okay.
He was unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
I mean, he was a wild man. I'm sure he's higher on an all-time sack list than even I would even believe. Is he top 5?
Well, do you want to look at that? I didn't look.
Well, let's
before,
not.
But yeah.
We'll wait till the end. My hunch is he's probably top 5. Is my guess that Kevin Green's in the top 5 all-time in sacks.
I think that you have that correct.
He's a Hoff.
I believe he's 3rd.
Okay, yeah. He was pretty remarkable. Did it with the Rams, the Steelers, the Panthers, that 3-4, and that was a defense he thrived in. He was a madman. And honestly, has probably a top 5 cool bust in Canton because of the mane.
The mane.
They have him with the mane in the bust. It looks so great.
Wrestled
so
in
cool.
WCW, was a position coach that players loved. Yes, and he's
yeah.
3rd, by the way, all time on the sack list. 3rd all time.
Yeah. All right, so he is my honorable mention. All right, so number 5 for you.
Derek Thomas. Derek Thomas did not get to have the full career that he was supposed to have, but, set the NFL record for sacks in a game, had some monster seasons as well, and I just remember as a kid, it was that Derek Thomas bend. He was the most feared guy in the league, in my recollection, coming off the edge, just speed, power, dip, bend, all of it.
He was the heir apparent to LT.
Yes.
He was the he was the guy that played like LT. He's the most played like LT guy we've had, really. There hasn't been anybody else that I can think of that plays the way LT played, that had similar speed that LT had than Derek Thomas. If I would have done an honorable mention, he would have been featured prominently in that honorable mention. I thought of him certainly and considered him greatly for the list. I went J.J. Watt at number 5. His stretch, J.J. Watt is kind of a Terrell Davis thing to him. There's kind of he was so dominant, but the time period's relatively short of the dominance. But I think he won 3 Defensive Player of the Years. He was All-Pro 5 times.
5-time All-Pro,
Something
1 time 2012 Defensive Player of the Year. but 5 times.
Just once?
That's what it says. But he had he had 4 seasons with 16 or more sacks, 20.5 and 12. Then he had 10.5 and 13, 20.5 and 14, 17.5 and 15, and then 16 and 18. Now his other years are pretty bad, but
they fall off. Yeah, they fall off. His dominance was incredible, though. It was just a shorter window with the injuries, and I went with how great he was for the short period versus how long the career was. Number 4 for you.
This is where I put Deacon Jones on the list.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to know what to say other than the fact of
he invented the term
what you've
sack.
seen and what you've read.
Yeah.
He invented the term. Yeah, and he was also he's one of the great. There's a couple of guys when you're back in the old days when you would watch NFL film stuff. He was one of those guys that when he came on the screen, like just hearing him talk, I was fearful of trying to evade sacks from him. I went Reggie White here at number 4 on this list. Just an incredibly dominant player. You and I had the conversation. I believe it was in the break. It may have been on air of what to do with him. Is he an end? Is he played inside some? He's a 3-4 defensive end. But whatever he was as good. I mean, the guys that we're talking about on this list are the best players ever. So
yes.
I mean, he's one of them, and he was absolutely dominant. Number 3 for you.
Number 3 for me was Reggie White. That's where I had.
Yeah. So we just flopped Reggie and Deacon Jones.
Okay. So I wonder if we have the same top 2. Number 2.
I'm thinking, considering what's left, I'd be shocked if we don't.
Well, I didn't know that number 2.
2.
I'll be my number 2 if he's considered that way by everybody. I think that's awesome. I didn't know, where he would be, but I have Bruce Smith number 2.
Yes.
He's
That's
so
the correct
good.
answer.
All-time leader in sacks.
So good.
That I knew without having to look it up. By the way, now that I did look it up, he has 200. He has 200. Next was Reggie White at 198. Then Kevin Green was 3rd at 160.
I can do one better on that list. They list the top 20. Not one is an active player currently.
No,
Wow.
most recent players on the list would be Terrell Suggs, 8th, 139. DeMarcus Ware, 9th, 138.5.
Of the top 20, not one is an active player right now.
Yeah.
Do you think that the players don't have the longevity anymore at that position? I wonder why.
I don't know. I looked it up. I had to look at
I'll tell you what I think it is. The NFL back in the day, passing offenses there was some 3-step drops. There were a predominant. Right. There was mostly 5 and 7-step drops.
7.
The ball was not coming out in 2 seconds. You were not in shotgun all the time, catching it and throwing it. I don't think there's as much time to get sacks as there used to be.
That's a great job out of you, and I believe that to be correct. I believe you have that. I think that's 100% right. That's it. That it was the idea of a quarterback getting under center and dropping 7 steps. Never.
That's rare.
I mean, you never see that ever. You just if you have routes that are that long developing, you just take it out of the gun now. You don't get under center and take a 7-step drop. So I think you're right. I also think that those Bill teams, the players on those teams are not judged properly because they couldn't win a Super Bowl. Because Thurman Thomas was great.
Jim
he
Kelly.
Was great.
Andre Reed.
Jim Kelly was great. Andre Reed was great. Bruce Smith was great. And because they went, what'd they go, 0-5 in Super Bowls?
They lost 4 in a row. Cornelius Bennett, Darryl Talley. They had like some.
Yeah.
Darryl Talley used to wear those cool spider webbed tights under his jersey. I love those things. So
yeah,
looking,
he was unreal.
Unreal, and I think you're right. Now, Notorious VIC would, that's his squad. That's who he covered.
Those are his boys.
Those were his people. They were loaded. This top 20 list, I think, is really fascinating. Everybody's name on here except for 2 were not a surprise whatsoever to me. And I'll go up from 20 Simeon Rice, 19 Robert Mathis, 18 Freeney, 17 Derek Thomas, 16 Ricky Jackson of the Saints. That surprised me.
Their linebacking core was crazy with Sam Mills and Pat Swilling and Ricky Jackson.
They were awesome.
That was a really good defense. Yeah.
Tied at 14 were Leslie O'Neal, Chargers.
Wouldn't have
had that. Everybody else would have had. O'Neal and Jackson I wouldn't have had. Lawrence Taylor, John Abraham, Jared Allen, John Randall, Richard Dent, Richard Dent was he got some consideration for
Zach
my
Van
honorable
Dent.
mention. Yeah. DeMarcus Ware, T. Suggs, Jason Taylor I thought about as well. Strahan. Here's one that I should probably be on both of our list. Chris Dolman.
Yeah.
Chris Dolman's
He was
fifth
like
all
Dent.
time.
They felt interchangeable. They both played in the NFC North. They kind of had the same body style. I would not have had Dolman fifth all time though.
And wasn't he on the same lines with Randall?
No, he was with Keith Millard. I think.
Ooh,
I mean,
Keith
he may
Millard,
have
yeah.
intersected with Randall later in his career,
Yeah.
but he was he may have already moved on to because he played for the Niners too, didn't he, Dolman?
Let's see.
He moved off of the Vikings at a decent time. I can't remember when, but he definitely played for more than them. Well, Dent played for the 49ers. Maybe I'm getting them confused.
Dent did, yes, at the end of his career. Yeah. But he was so good on those Bears teams of your youth.
Yeah, they were. Yeah, they were. That was pretty dang good.
Dolman did also play for the Niners. He had a Pro Bowl season with
the same guy.
He had a Pro Bowl season.
The same guy.
Listen to this. 8-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro. He made the Pro Bowl in Minnesota, in Atlanta, and with the Niners. He had double-digit sack seasons with all three teams as well. He had 8 double-digit sack seasons in his career. 8, including 21 and 89 to lead the league. And how about he had 21 and 89? He followed that up with 11, 12, and 15 in 96, 97, 98.
Jeez.
Those guys played
Yeah, I
together
wouldn't have had
90 to 93.
Who, Dolman and Randall?
Yes.
99-3.
Okay. Well,
And that was
That's good.
Dolman was
That's good.
pretty darn good right then.
so number one on our list is obviously Lawrence Taylor.
Yes. Who from
So we had 5 different, and we had 2 and 3 swapped. But other than that, you're same type of guys. And I think you could make an argument. There's about 4 or 5 guys that you can make an argument. Jim Brown would be one. Jerry Rice would be one. Greatest football player, period, ever. This guy's one. You can make a conversation about Lawrence Taylor as the greatest football player ever.
Yeah, absolutely. Just dominant, changed the game in many respects. I'm just going down my little rabbit hole here when we mentioned Dolman and Randall. Yeah. Would you have had this?
Yeah.
John Randall. 6 straight years first team All-Pro from 93 to 98. 6 straight years first team All-Pro. He had 7 total Pro Bowls. He had double-digit sacks. And he was a defensive tackle, wasn't he? Double-digit sacks, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 8 in 2000, double digits again in 2001.
No, I would not have had
8
that.
straight seasons with double-digit sacks.
First team All-Pro.
6 straight years first team All-Pro. 6 straight.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have had that.
Holy mackerel.
That's the one that separates is the first team All-Pro. When you're the amount of All-Pros, and there's some positions where it's just really hard, and linebacker certainly is one that it was really, really hard, especially at that time, to be a first team All-Pro. But when you're trying to decide, like, are you the best, at least a couple of times in your career, it's kind of important that you are. Lawrence Taylor, guys, I don't know if the kids are aware of this. So he is an 8-time All-Pro. He is a 10-time Pro Bowler. He won the NFL MVP.
Yep.
Period. Playing defense. He won the MVP. He was the MVP of the NFL.
Boy. 20
and a half sacks in 1986.
I wonder what the longest consecutive streak of first-team All-Pros is for anybody. Because Taylor has 6. Randall has 6.
What's Hoff have?
First-team All-Pros consecutively? Let's see.
Anthony Munoz is my best guess.
There aren't that many people that have more than 6. Hoff had...
Anthony Munoz has 9.
Okay, Hoff had 6 total. He had 3.
6 consecutively for Munoz.
So that
not more than 6.
John Randall might be in the conversation for the most consecutive seasons. I mean, clearly is in the conversation. If Munoz... Hoff had 3 a year off and then 3.
That's what Munoz was 3 year off, then 6. 9-time first team All-Pro.
Oh, my God.
Well, where's Aaron Donald on that? Is he getting up there? Does he have an active streak?
Hold, please. I just am blown away. I mean, I thought John Randall I knew he was good, but that blows my mind. Aaron Donald, he's got 6 right now. 6 in a row.
He's got 6 consecutive right now.
So he could perhaps set the record from our knowledge of the record at this point.
Well, we're just making this up as a thing, so I think we could say that he would.
By the way, 8 MVPs since 86 that were not quarterbacks.
8 since 86?
Yes.
That weren't quarterbacks. How many defense?
Just
0?
him.
Just him.
Just him.
Well, you remember in the strikes shortened season, the kicker won the MVP. The Redskins kicker won the MVP. In the 83, the strike shortened season. Non-quarterback MVPs. Who do you got? Adrian Peterson. Did he win one?
So going in order here, Thurman Thomas in 91, Emmitt Smith in 93, Barry Sanders and Brett Favre, I guess, were co-MVPs in 97.
Yeah.
Terrell Davis in 98.
Yep.
Marshall Faulk in 2000. Sean Alexander, 2005.
Yeah, Sean Alexander was a monster.
Yeah, he was touchdown machine.
Yep. Then the Madden curse. 2006, LaDainian Tomlinson. AP in 2012, and that is it.
All right, guys. So
in retrospect, none of those are. They all hold the water. All those hold strong. Go ahead, C.
The answer to our query: most consecutive first-team All-Pro seasons. The answer is Ron Mix, 9 straight. Who, of course, how do we forget that? Ron Mix, who played guard and tackle for the San Diego Chargers from 60 to 71. But if you take the modern era, Jerry Rice, who has 10, never did more than 6. Munoz never did more than 6. Bruce Smith never did more than 6. Reggie White never did more than 6. Lawrence Taylor never did more than 6 in a row. So Aaron Donald has an opportunity.
Aaron Donald can do it.
To be the first modern era guy, 7 consecutive seasons as a first-team All-Pro. Singletary was 6 out of 7 at one point. He would be considered modern era. Bruce Matthews had 3, 1, and then 3, 13 years after his first All-Pro, that's mind-boggling.
Crazy, yeah. What'd you say? Hoff was 6, right? So
yeah,
Hoff was
3
6
a year off, and then 3. So
can you imagine somebody being like, "Boy, I wonder if he'll be a Hoff." Can you imagine?
We shouldn't.
Like
it might be premature.
All-Pros?
Yeah,
might be. Yeah, you're safe. First ballot.
Safe.
Get him the gold jacket. Get him measured. Get my boy measured.
That's a pretty remarkable thing, though, that you think of the modern era. Jerry Rice had 6 consecutive. Munoz, Bruce Smith, Reggie White, Lawrence Taylor. Nobody ever had 7, and Aaron Donald has a chance to do that. And John Randall. John Randall, surprise of the surprise to me on that one. 6 straight.
Aaron Donald has opened the conversation on all-time defensive tackle.
Absolutely. I think he's –
That's what he's done.
Yeah.
I mean, that was something that you weren't getting in that category. Like, that was set in stone who those were. It was Mean Joe Green. Pick one of the – it was not something you could get in that club. He's the guy now. He's one of the D tackles.
How about Randy White? Did you know 7-time first-team All-Pro, Randy White?
Yeah, he would. It was always Randy White and Joe Green. Those were on any all-time NFL list. Those are the defensive tackles. That's fun. All right, more to come. Cleveland Browns Daily, 850 ESPN Cleveland. We're up. Boy, it's pretty interesting. I find this whole thing fascinating with the All-Pros and Aaron Donald, what he can do. I mean, he's 7 years into his career. So he's 6 straight first-team All-Pros. I mean, there aren't that many guys who have more than 6 all-time. Like, you can count them. It looks to be like there's about 20 of them who have more than 6 all-time. But you'd have to feel he's got a shot. The most all-time are Jerry Rice and Jim Otto, 10.
Yep. And
He's
neither
got a
of them had
realistic
more than
shot.
6 consecutively.
Right. Mix had the 9 straight, played 11 years, was a first-team All-Pro 9 straight. Munoz was 9 as well. So those guys would be the most all-time. The list at 8. I mean, these are the best players to ever play the game. But it's pretty remarkable that how close Donald is to being on a list that is people who you write the history of the NFL. You can't do it without them.
So there are only 2 active players in the NFL. Are you looking at the list?
Yeah, I mean, I have it pulled up right now. I mean, the all-time guys.
Well, there are only 2 active guys with 6 or more.
Oh, I would not have had this.
Bobby Wagner is the other.
I would not have had this as I stumble upon Bobby Wagner at 6.
5 consecutive. His streak is at 5. He could feasibly get to 6 to 7 in a row, which would put him at 8 total.
Would you have had him at 6?
No.
Because
Because I would have thought with
Kuechly and Patrick Willis. I mean, I didn't think that he would.
Because Willis had 5
I would have
himself.
thought that they would. Right.
But those are the only 2 active players in the NFL with 6 or more right now. Aaron Donald and Bobby Wagner. And Donald was drafted in 2014. It's his first season. Wagner's first season, 2012. That's incredible. I mean, when you think about this is how hard it is to be first-team All-Pro. Hands down, at least I would, consider Deion Sanders the greatest cornerback ever. He's got 6.
Yes, he's got 6.
Total. Ronnie Lott has 6 total. Yep. Shane Leckler is the one guy you would think had an opportunity because he was considered the best punter in the league for so long. He has 6 total.
Yeah.
Ray Lewis had
only
7.
Had 7.
Right. Peyton
Every time
Manning,
that
7 is pretty impressive.
Peyton Manning 7 amidst Brady, Favre, Rodgers, Roethlisberger, Breeze. Because you've got anytime you win the MVP, you're not going to be a first-team All-Pro. So that means Rodgers won MVPs during that time. Brady won MVPs during his career. Favre probably won an MVP during Manning's career. Breeze won an MVP during Manning's career, I'm pretty sure. And he still found a way to win 7.
From 2003, here's one for you. From 2003 to 2013, you could have, entering the 2003 season, I said to you, first-team All-Pro quarterback, there's one. You get Peyton Manning, I get the field. You would want crazy odds, and you would have won. In those 10 years, he won 6. Actually, I'm sorry, it's 11 years because you're counting 2030. He won 7. The field won 4. He almost doubled up the field. He never went more than 2 consecutive seasons without being first-team All-Pro. He's the greatest regular season quarterback of all time. He should be in the discussion for the greatest quarterback of all time. But because of his shortcomings in the playoffs, he's not. He was.
I think if they just beat the Saints that year, if they just recover an onside kick beat the Saints, I think if that happens, then he's got 3. He's got you're not going to be Brady's going to be the guy, but then you're at least in that conversation. I mean, it is crazy. He only has the 2, and I would have to go back and look. And I mean, he was going up against Belichick all the times. Oftentimes they would have to go to Foxborough. Their whole thing was set up about playing on turf in the Dome. But even as I say that, I can recall losses in the Dome to Pittsburgh or to San Diego, I want to say, one
Penn's
year.
Rookie year.
Weird.
I was going to say, they
losses.
underachieved at home in the playoffs.
They never could.
Yeah.
So at Pro Football Reference, they do a Hall of Fame monitor, which is the way that they calculate everything and they grade who is the best. Yeah. His Hall of Fame monitor is that he is the number 1 quarterback of all time by their proprietary calculation.
Yeah, I mean, I think that 7-time first-team All-Pro backs that up. Our guy Otto had 6 of them.
It's just stunning. 14-13 in the playoffs for his career. Quarterback rating of 87.
Jeez. Yeah, I mean, I'm right now. I'm looking at that team they brought up against the Saints. I mean, he was 31 of 45 in that Super Bowl, 333, a touchdown and a pick. Joseph Adai was the running back. They had Dallas Clark, who's a good player, and Reggie Wayne. But other than that, it looks like the type of team that you'd run out that Aaron Rodgers has run. I mean, it's not like it's loaded.
Correct.
With guys, that team that they got to. But I mean, I think that's it. The one he won, he beat Rex Grossman.
Yeah, it's just his playoff numbers are significantly below his regular season numbers. I think and people hold that against him. I mean,
yeah, he's still a top 5 quarterback ever, in my view. But I mean, he was just regular season just unbelievably dominant.
Unbelievably dominant. I mean,
like if you did it, I would go Brady, Montana, Otto. Manning would be in there, and then I think it would be really difficult with who, like, do you do, like, Elway? Is he in that
If you
mix?
do a quarterback from Mount
mix?
Rushmore, I think that's
Rodgers?
it, though. I think you hit the
But that's probably the 4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
according to Madden,
the
Mahomes is in there already, but it's a bit premature.
Yeah, let's settle down a little bit on that. Still so much more to come. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, I'm going to get you you're officially endorsed. And, you know, you get to the point where there's certain times a year, like, for example, the apple pie bourbon that we do, that we put out, that we do, and that we do, yeah, oh, boy, what a real treat, that we have going into Thanksgiving, into the holidays. There's a time of year where you crave that. So this time of year, I crave this. And it is, I just think it's fantastic at the pool. It's fantastic at summer in general. And it's ranch water. And I've given this before, probably a year ago at this time. But what you do is you take, what is this? Is this like a 64 Yeti? What am I looking at?
94?
No,
yeah, you got one, Gibby. Is that a 32?
64? I think it's a 32. 64 would be really
Maybe
big.
a 32?
Yeah, 32.
I'll go
okay,
32.
Okay, it's a 32. You take 3 ounces of the silver tequila of your choice, the Blanco, if you want, of your choice. 3 ounces of that, so 2 shots of that. This is the key part. 1.5 ounces of freshly squeezed lime. It's better that way. Don't do you can cheat it if you can, but you don't have to.
No.
Get the limes. They're readily available.
I was going to say, yeah.
1.5 ounces of that, and then you go get the Topo Chico water.
Miss K, all about Topo Chico. It's all over our house.
Well, then you're set. You got it.
I've got everything I need. I have all the ingredients.
You got everything you need. So you put all the ice in the Yeti. You put those things in. I like to do a little salt on top just for the fun. Oh boy, what a real treat! You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. Oh, you got everything you need, Miss K.
I'm ready to go. I can have this today.
You're set. You can have it today. You're ready to go. All right, kids. The next level coming up next. Enjoy your first Friday. We are back tomorrow.